Hello, and welcome to This Movie Needs More Flavor. I'm Josh.
I'm Adam.
In this episode, we'll take a look at Stanley Kubrick's 1964 Cold War satire, Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. The story begins with Brigadier General Jack D. Ripper, commander of the Burleson Air Force Base, issuing what equates to a full-blown nuclear assault on the Russians due to an apparent Soviet conspiracy to sap his precious bodily fluids. Convinced of this conspiracy by a bout of failed lovemaking, General Ripper's issuance of Wing Attack Plan R sets in motion the possibility of an unstoppable doomsday device destroying the world. Concerned for the fate of humanity, we follow RAF Exchange Officer Group Captain Lionel Mandrake, played by Peter Sellers, trapped in a room with increasingly unhinged General Ripper, President Merkin Muffley, played by Peter Sellers, and his advisors in the war room, among them Dr. Strangelove, also played by Peter Sellers, as they attempt to discover a three-letter code and reach the crew of a B-52 bomber piloted by Slim Pickens before it's all too late. Adam, your take on this Kubrick comedy classic?
It goes that George C. Scott found, as many other actors, he found Stanley Kubrick's directing style to be a little obnoxious. He didn't like so many takes, and apparently he especially didn't like the fact that Stanley Kubrick wanted him to overact. Well, in Kubrick's defense, and it ended up looking really, really good. And it got so bad with George C. Scott that he actually never wanted to work with him again. But it was during filming, George C. Scott and Kubrick would have chess matches, as Kubrick liked to do with people who were willing. And over time, George C. Scott realized how good he was after getting beaten so much, and it actually caused him to respect Kubrick a whole lot more on just another level. So not only did George C. Scott relent to Kubrick's style, it also kind of helped George C. Scott's temperament, because the more he respected Kubrick, the less he acted up, which he was oft to do. So it worked out. Peter Sellers was another actor in this who took on a few roles and really didn't want to work with Kubrick again because of how many takes Kubrick would have. In fact, Kubrick had to set up, apparently, like 6 cameras for certain shots involving Peter Sellers because of how Peter Sellers would improvise. Sellers finally told Kubrick, he's like, hey, look, I'm going to do 2 to 3 takes at best. So you do what you need to do, but I can't guarantee I can give you any more than that. So there was a lot of ad-libbing from Sellers on that. I can walk, the very end, one of the ad-libs. It was, let's meet halfway when it comes to that kind of talent. Getting more to the actual movie itself, there are so many, how should I put it, bureaucratic steps, the actual narrative, and apparently Congress took note because they had a meeting and decided that, yeah, perhaps we should avoid something like this. So they put in steps to ensure that nothing that happened in this movie would happen in real life, hopefully.
It's nice that they take that into account, yeah.
And then, as you mentioned in the intro, the whole reason for this aggression happening in the first place is so absurd. It's like, well, there's nothing wrong with me. I love the women. It must be something that the Soviets are putting into my body. Okay. That just sets everything off. This film is a treasure for so many little things, I think. One could talk about cinematography, so many different aspects, the direction, the writing, even the source material, which was much more serious than Kubrick made it out to be. But it's the little things, like, for instance, towards the beginning, when James Earl Jones and the other actor, they pop their heads up into the cockpit to talk to Slim Pickens, and they're asking him about, like, what's going on. And I like how Slim Pickens talks to them almost as if he's like their big brother. They're popping up into like the clubhouse, just their heads popping up. And Slim Pickens is like, He's like, yeah, you don't know anything, butthead. I'll handle this sort of thing. Takes control. Or how many of the other characters are very, very juvenile. They're like little children. They're all like little children, squabbling, trying to get their hands in the cookie jar. I know this, I know that, or we should do it this way.
Everybody's scrambling to get theirs, and it's going absolutely nowhere. It's actually backing up.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and like Tracy Reed, who's like the only female in this movie, I think, calling George C. Scott while he's in the war room and he's handling it like some teenagers, like, hey, don't call me.
I'm gonna make you Mrs. Buck Turgidson.
Even the names of these characters are just ridiculous, like Premier Kissoff, General Jack D. Ripper, Colonel Bat Guano, and he really is like batshit crazy. Yeah. I'm gonna report you to the Coca-Cola Company. Apparently, the Air Force was none too pleased with Stanley Kubrick's farcical, even buffoonish depiction of the military and its goings-on. So he didn't feel very welcomed after that.
Right, you have that little open at the start where it's just a dialogue of this in no way represents anything.
But, yeah, those are my general thoughts about this film.
Well, I think the first time I checked it out was in a film comedy class. And I was the guy laughing hysterically while everybody else was kind of just tired and burnt because it was a Monday class. I mean, that's how it goes. I thoroughly enjoyed it and stuck with me since then.
This movie really can just go right over your head if you're not like really taking it in.
Yeah, if you're not prepped to pay attention, it's lost on you. But having said that, there's a couple things that when people discuss this, that come to pop up, two questions. And the first one is always, why did they name it Dr. Strangelove? And yes, admittedly, he wasn't a central character per se.
He wasn't a central character in the film, and I believe he was non-existent in the novel. So that was purely an invention of Kubrick, Peter Sellers. And I also do want to add something. Peter Sellers, 2 of his 3 characters are very measured, and they are like completely not goofy, which is very interesting for a Peter Sellers character. And his most goofy character you hardly see. And it's cool to actually see Peter Sellers in a part where he's letting others be the fool.
Yeah, and it's that goofy character that is the guy who gets the title of the movie. And it's because Dr. Strangelove is a personification of the film. The film symbolizes and satirizes the Cold War and Cold War thinking that we're the best, we're the brightest, we're the strongest, and we're going to win. And there's other characters that display that, but none of them display it stronger than Strangelove. I mean, he's the embodiment of that ignorant and very arrogant atomic age mentality of we can solve all our problems with science, while they, a nuclear bomb blast goes off in the background. I mean, after World War II, both the American side and the Russian side were scrambling to secure German scientists.
Exactly. Werner von Braun.
Mm-hmm. So this is the scenario you got. And you wonder why you get a Cold War. You wonder why you get an arms race. You wonder why you get mutually assured destruction. And it's because both sides decided, we're going to employ irresponsible ex-friggin' Nazis as our scientific experts. And that's exactly what Dr. Strangelove is. And that's why he got the title.
I also like the fact that you could see his Strangelove's casual irritation with the fact that the Russians did not announce that they had a doomsday weapon, which was the whole reason for having the doomsday weapon, to ensure that there wouldn't be an attack in the first place. But I like how he's just like, he just kind of brushes it off, but you can tell he's like, yeah, that was pretty stupid.
Right. I mean, he's totally on board with it. He gets it.
You have to tell them. Otherwise, it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and the other question that pops up is, why they do it in black and white? And I don't like that question because the way it's usually gets thrown out there. Why'd they do it in black and white? Which is not why they do it in black and white. It's why didn't they do this in color like I'm used to? Black and white movies are old and boring and yada yada yada. And no, okay? It's kind of obvious why they did it in black and white. I mean, well, for me at least, I think the aesthetic choice symbolizes the time period. It's that sort of the old school newsreels, propagandists. They go to the theater and this week in the war, our fighting men are back in the South Pacific. Go get 'em, boys. That type of thing. And that type of thing is black and white. And there are instances in this movie that's pure that. They're cut clean out of the old school newsreels. So that's why it's black and white. It's pretty clear, and that's it. So obviously, Peter Sellers' performances in this are fantastic, but there's a performance that beats them, and that's George C. Scott.
Love it.
It kills me to learn that he wasn't totally on board. Dude, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he wasn't on board, and there's a scene, he trips, he falls and gets back up, and that wasn't planned, and they kept it. So there were so many unintentional things that made this movie funny.
That is my second favorite bit from him. How he cleanly just barrel rolls it and he's right back up. Again, what you brought up, the names. This is General Buck Turgidson. I mean, you can get a more manlier name than that. Guy who slays at being the shoot first, ask questions later type. I mean, that's his persona, like dead on. You got to remember, this is the guy who wants to reserve judgment about the sanity of Ripper, right? This is the guy who's on board to just, hey, we kicked it off. We might as well go for broke. I mean, he is like the epitome of that particular character. I mean, he is the epitome of General Buck Turgidson.
And yet he is one of the characters that I find to be very juvenile, especially when the president like reprimands him or calls him out and he's stuffing gum in his mouth, like having a little fit. And he's like a grown child, but it's great.
I mean, by far, my favorite bit with him is that they're all sitting there concerned. They realize that one B-52 has slipped by. And, I mean, it's on target, it's on course. And they're like, General, is this possible at all? I mean, everybody's just, oh, my God, this is possible. Is it going to happen? And he's like, damn right it's going to happen. I mean, he is jacked. He's got his arms spread like a fucking Spitfire. Little zoomy noises. He's ready for it.
He's living it, man.
And it's so hysterical. It is. It really is. And if I'm talking about performances, I'm going to have to go into all three. So just briefly, a thing about Mandrake's character. Again, absolutely perfect name. Lionel Mandrake is every RAF officer on the planet has one of those two names in their names. Okay, they usually have like 6 names. So yeah, that's definitely possible. Okay, but I was trying to like put my finger down on who he reminds me of. And I finally placed it, and it's totally random, but he reminds me of a puppet character. He reminds me of a character from Santa Claus is Coming to Town. It's the soldier that pretty much answers to the Burgermeister. And I had to find out that soldier had a name. He's Grimsley. He sounds like him. He talks like him. The puppet is geared to walk like him, and he's got a little mustache just like him.
You know, that never occurred to me. I never thought of that.
I found another association, and that is your boy Colonel Batguano there. His name is Keenan Wynn. Actually, his full name is Francis Xavier Aloysius James Jeremiah Keenan Wynn. But aside from that, he was the voice of the Winter Warlock.
Really?
I know, right? That was weird.
You know, the Mandrake character, I wonder what it was like for Peter Sellers to do that character. Because if I'm not mistaken, I watched a documentary a while back, and I think Peter Sellers was in the military, if not the Royal Air Force itself. So it wasn't too far off from his real life, or at least people that he could see and interact with. So,
okay, straight up from what I read, he was standard for just goofing on the officers and faking their accents. So he was already primed for that part.
well, there you go.
Yeah. Okay, so next we got, hands down, the best name in this film. We've got President Merkin Muffley. It's a close second. Buck Turgidson is close second, but Merkin Muffley wins it hands down. And yeah, he is played straight, but he's played so docile. It's hilarious. Like every interaction he has with the premiere is pretty much like the way you talk to like a shitty little 8-year-old when you know he's upset and you just want the kid to calm down so he doesn't do something nasty.
It's condescending at times.
I'm sorry. No, well, don't say that you're more sorry than me, Dimitri. I'm capable of being just as sorry as you. Okay, we're both sorry. I mean, that's pure third grade teacher talking to a kid. And finally, we've got the character of Dr. Strangelove. The best part about Dr. Strangelove for me is that he is a clear and obvious reference to Rotwang in Metropolis. And I absolutely love Metropolis. And Rotwang is the mad scientist, and they're both mad scientists. They both got the crazy hair thing going, and they both have a disability to an extent. And also, like, distinctly, they both wear that dark black glove, one dark black glove on a messed up hand. And the thing that's most prominent about them, and the thing that I appreciate the most, is that they're both the ones that are controlling the people who are in control. And I mean, ultimately, it's Dr. Strangelove that wins in the end. It's not the Americans. It's not the Russians.
It's like a scientific Svengali. It's not mysticism. It's my intellect and my will to do basically whatever the hell I want and convince you to do it.
Yeah. So he's the winner in the end. And with that interpretation, I would strongly suggest that you check it out, see for yourself, and tell us what you think.
Special thanks to Andy Warner for the song Evening Blues, courtesy of TuneTank.com.
If you enjoyed what you heard, you could always like, share, comment, subscribe, turn on notifications, and follow us on Instagram. All that fun and flavorful stuff that really helps us out a bunch.
Thanks for listening, and take care.